All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our AFDA course. In this chapter, we're going to look at chapter 16, which is sampling and simulation. So we're pretty deep into the statistics at this point, and we're going to shift gears one last time. And when we talk about sampling, we're doing surveys. So we've talked about standard deviations and averages and things like that when we have a set of data. And this chapter is how do I get a set of data? So how do I go out there and do some sampling, do some surveying, and get data? So you see we're going to do three things here. And actually, this will probably be all one video here because each of these objectives, A, B, and C, all directly relate to each other. So in A, we're going to look at the 4 basic sampling techniques right here. So we have 4 things, 4 different ways, and actually we're going to add a 5th in there. We'll use those, and then in B, we're going to identify faulty questions, and in C, we're going to do some basic sampling. So let's go ahead and get right to it. In part A, I do say 4, there's actually 5. And I'm actually going to look at not early on, we're going to go down to this question, because here are the 5 different types of sampling. Now, our objective said 4, because I'm not counting this, the random sample, as one of the basic techniques. It's one that you guys already probably know. And a random sample is right here. Members are chosen from the population using some sort of method where every single person has an equal chance of being chosen. That is a random sample. Now, when we look at it as the other 4 here, let's just kind of go through the pattern. Most of these we'll be able to figure out. B. Well, let's label A first. There we go. All right. Now B. Members are chosen using some sort of pattern. So every 5th person you see or something like that. That might seem random, but it's not quite random because it's a pattern. So every 5th person. It is very related, but this is something called a systematic sample, because you're using some sort of system to come up with the answer. Now, C. Members are chosen because they are easily accessible. This is kind of in the name. It's called the convenience sample. This one would be you're surveying people that are coming out of the cafeteria at lunch. It's probably the most often used survey in schools. However, it's a convenience sample because you're only choosing people that are coming out of lunch because they're easily accessible to you. D, you divide everybody up into groups and then randomly choose from each group is called a stratified sample. Now, the reason you might do this is because you want equal representation from each of the groups of people. For instance, in a class, I might want equal representation between guys and girls. But if there's only 4 guys and 12 girls in the class, I don't want to take a simple random of, 5 people because they could all be girls. I have to choose so many guys, so many girls. So I'm dividing that into groups first and then doing equal choices between each group. And then this last one would be a volunteer. A self-selected sample is something where the members simply volunteer to participate. So this would kind of go with your convenience sample. If you set up a booth outside the cafeteria and only surveyed kids that came out to fill out a survey. So the first section is simply identifying these. Well, let's take a look. All right. So Let's see. Marcy stood outside the theater and asked every fifth person whether or not they liked the movie. Is it a random or a systematic? This one is a systematic because it's using some sort of system to find to your sample. Every fifth person. Okay. In number 2. All right. Shoppers are offering a coupon for $5 off their next purchase if they fill out a quick survey. Okay. This is a voluntary sample. Because the participants are choosing whether or not they want to fill out the survey. Okay. Let's see. Baseball put a poll asking its visitors to vote on which one they believe. All right. This is also a voluntary sample because the members are choosing whether or not they want to participate. Okay. In 4. All right, so now this one we're not deciding what it is. We're deciding what is best to use. So I want to know the average number of hours that students spend on homework each week. So I'm concerned with the school as a whole. So the question is, what type of sample do I want to use? Well, let's eliminate some right away. Let's eliminate convenience sample. I don't want to hear from just the kids that participate. So convenience is going to be gone. So let's look a little more in depth. And it might be helpful to have kind of our list here. As we look here, we've eliminated convenience. And I'm going to eliminate self-selected. So simple, random, stratified, or systematic. I'm going to eliminate systematic. Not that it couldn't be used, but if you see, systematic and random are very much the same. So if I'm going to use something to get, the student body as a whole, I actually probably, let's not eliminate systematic, let's just eliminate random. A true random sample can be very difficult to achieve. So let's do a systematic or a stratified, and let's eliminate random. So now, what do I want to look at? I want to look at homework. And I want to look at the school as a whole. I'm not concerned with any one type of group of students within the school. I'm concerned with the school as a whole. So I'm going to assume a couple things. I'm going to assume that the groups of students are all basically the same, meaning there's an even distribution. There's about the same number of freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. There's about the same guys versus girls. There's about the same, AP students versus regular ed students. Those sort of things that I'm looking at, that there's about the same distribution. And assuming that, whoops, my pen just stopped working there. Give it 1 second. But assuming that, I'm going to use a systematic sample. I could use a random sample. Either of those would be fine. The reason I'm choosing systematic is because a random sample is very difficult to actually achieve. You might think that choosing every fifth person would give you a random distribution. Not really. Random would barely be picking every kid's name out of a hat. So something like that where it's a true random distribution. We're going to talk more about random in a bit. So I'm not using random simply because it's a difficult sample to achieve. Okay. So let's look here. Randomly select high schools from different regions and survey all students in each of the chosen schools. So I'm going to label this as stratified. And the reason is they started off by choosing different groups, and then, well, that might not be it. I started with different groups, but then surveyed all the students in each group. Let's look at our different definition. Yeah. Our definition of stratified is that the population is first divided into groups and then chosen randomly from each group. So I might argue that because I'm surveying all students in each group, that that's not it. So now I'm kind of left with something else. And actually, here's something fun. This is called a cluster. And a cluster sample is exactly this. It's divided into groups, but then you choose all the people from each group. Okay. So those are our types of samples. Now, our original thing had 4. We're actually up to 6 now, different types of sampling. All right. Now, in the second section, I just want to be able to identify flaws. Now, this process, there's no notes on it. It's simply looking at the question, looking at the types of samples we talked about, and then decide what could be wrong with this. All right, so the survey question contains a flaw, identify the flaw, and rewrite it. All right, will you continue to shop at this department store even though it does not carry brand names? What's the flaw with this? Well, you have to think about who you're dealing with. This survey would be given to who? Well, this survey would be given to people who already shop at this department store. So it's not surveying the entire people. You're just surveying people who already shop because they say, will you continue to shop? So understanding that, well, if I already shop at the store and I know they don't carry brand names, I'm probably going to continue shopping at the store. So what could I do to identify this flaw and reword it? Well, the flaw is actually, I wouldn't say the flaw is in the question. I'd say the flaw is who I'm giving this to. And I would say, let's change this to a question that I would give him to everybody. And instead of will you continue to shop, will you, let's put, be more likely to shop at this store if it did carry brand names. Because clearly the author of this question wants to know, does this brand name thing make a difference in my customers? If I went out there and started to carry brand names, would I have more customers? So that would be the flaw of that. Again, there's no set pattern for any of this. It's simply going through and looking at what type of sample I'm going to use, who's my audience, the question itself, and identify how I can make it better. Now, our last part of this is going to be actually doing a survey. And we're only going to worry about doing random number survey. So a random survey, the one that is the most difficult to do, we're going to try to figure out. And what we're going to do, we're going to set up little scenarios and explain how to simulate an experiment using random numbers. So the first thing is we're going to use the random number generator on my calculator. And what our calculator does, let's bring this up here, is it will give me a complete random number with some constraints. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to math, I'm going to go to probability, and it's the first one, the random number generator. Now, I need to enter in some limits. So I'm going to enter in the lower limit. I'm going to start at 0. And let's go from 0 to 100. And then this last one, I'm going to spit out, let's go 3. So this will give me 3 random numbers between 0 and 100. Uh-oh. Didn't seem to like that. Oops, I might have done the wrong one. Oh, there it is. This one, sorry, random integer, my bad. Now let's go 0, 100, 3 of them. There we go. These are 3 numbers between 0 and 100 selected randomly. And if I keep hitting enter, you can see it's giving me different numbers each time. So how does this help me? Think about what I'm asking. I want to use this, the ability to spit out a random number between 2 values to figure out problems. Well, if I strike out 65% of the time, that means the chances of me striking out are 65%. So when I look at my random numbers, let's get rid of this. Random integer. And let's go between 0 and 100. And let's just do 1 now. There we go. This time I got a number bigger, got 94. If I choose that my random number between 0 and 65 is a strike, and between 66 and 100 is a hit, well then this guy just got a hit. That's a strike. 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 Hit. Hit. Strike. 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 Hit. So you see, this is spitting out random numbers. Whoops. Yeah, I put a period in there. That's spitting out numbers that are representing this situation. And your job is to simply describe that. Now, to describe it, I only need you to tell me what you're plugging into the random number generator. So you would just simply put 0, 100, and this number could change, because if you're going to run an experiment, you want to run it several different times. So I probably wouldn't just put 1 there. I would probably run that several times to get an answer. And that's what I want you to do in this last question. I want you to actually run the experiment. So in this one, we're going to use random numbers. And in this case, I want to actually run it 30 times so I can get an answer. So the football is placed on the 10-yard line, and it has 4 downs to score a touchdown. I can only run 0 to 5. So I want to know how many times I'll score a touchdown. So think about it. I've got 4 chances to score. So I'm going to make my random number between 1 to 4. And then how much can I go? So this is going to give me a random number between 1 and 4. Well, I don't really want that. I want the random number to be how many yards per play. So let's actually change that. Whoops. From 0 to 5. So this now, the random number will be how many yards I get per play. And I have 4 tries to do it. So let's look. There we go. Now, did I get to 10? 5, 6, 7, 8. I did not score a touchdown. So this would be a no. 5, 8, 9. This is a no. There's a yes because I'm over 10. There's a yes because I'm 10. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep track as I go through. So I have 2 no's and 2 yeses. And I'm actually just writing this down as we go. All right, so there's a yes. There's a no. Another no. Another no. A yes. a no, a yes, a yes, a no, a no. There's a yes, that's 10 on the dot. And now I've run it 15 times. I'd have to go 15 more, but I'm not going to put that in a video. But what I found in just those that I have 8 no's and 7 yeses. So I scored a touchdown 7 out of 15 times using these constraints. All right, so that should conclude our video. Let's just make sure. Yep, that concludes our video on chapter 16. So take a look at these. Let's do our practice, and we'll be doing a quiz at some point on this. We'll see you.